Yeah, we've mentioned it to the Allreds and the farmers in that area for over the last 20 years, and it's something that I wouldn't be interested in doing again.
Okay. That pretty much explains it, right?
As far as I know, you know, I mean, what would be their interest in annexing? They built a very beautiful farm. Their father, or Ray's father, came over in the 50s in 1955 and started buying property and building a nice farm and orchard. His son took over, and his son just recently passed away. But anyway, they built it into a really nice agricultural area. Why would they want to annex it? What would be the benefit to them to annex? There's none.
The only other thing I have a question on is on.
They're not going to annex it to help others build next to their
Right.
farm, because they're.
Because that's what I was gonna bring up. Isn't there a new deal out now that came out a year or two ago on the, Santaquin was fighting with it, on their new policies on how close you can build to an orchard? And like it's a protection deal where they can't be so close to, when they spray, because of the spraying of the trees and all of that stuff.
We'd have to look into that later.
Yeah, and I'm not sure. Anyways, that's just something that you might be aware of, because I know that come up on the Santaquin deal now that I was thinking about it.
Well, and going over this, I mean, my father bought this property in 1958, and at that time, I was 8 years old. Now you know how old I am. But anyway, I remember him telling me at that time that CUWP had promised him that there would be water along the base of those mountains, you know, within 10 years. Well, now it's, what, 60 years later, and there's still not water there. And so this has always been my dad's dry land, because it is dry, there's no water there. And I'm getting to a point where I can't farm it anymore, and it's a losing business every year, but it is a very nice area for housing. And my feeling is those who want to feed America should be able to feed America, and those who want to house America should be able to house America. And those who,
It's going crazy up there with the ride and all
those
those
who want to govern America, they should be able to govern America. And why can't all three of us, you know, work together and, you know, come up with a good proposal? I feel like there's definite benefits to annex into Elk Ridge. I was born and raised in Payson. I graduated from Payson High. I'm patriotic to Payson. I'll never be a what's the saying? Skyhawk. I'll never be a Skyhawk fan. I'll always be a Payson Lion. But still, you know, there's economics to it too. Advantages to annexing to Elk Ridge. I just made a list. Immediate development, for one thing, that's very important to me. Services available. Payson has, I don't know how far away their water is to this property, but it's a long ways. The sewer is right there. That's Payson's sewer anyway, so that's not a problem. It'd be less expensive. The subdivision already borders on Elk Ridge, or this annexation already borders on Elk Ridge on 3 sides. It fits geographically. Most of the neighbors are on board. Fewer secret combination meetings necessary. Developer will have some say in the type of housing. The city and neighbors will not dictate to the builder the zoning, size of house, style of house, location of house, density of housing, and number 10, no pressurized irrigation cost. The only advantage I can see to annexing to Payson is that we wouldn't be required to install fire sprinklers in every house that we do in Elk Ridge.
Any discussion or questions for Lee?
Lee.
And before I get off my soapbox, in the interlocal agreement that was made, what was it, 12 years ago? that signature? I think it was 12 years ago. Yeah, 2005. In there, 2 or 3 times it's mentioned Haskellville, that kind of the east side of Payson. And for your record, it's misspelled. So if you could correct that, I'd appreciate it. It's E-L-L, it's not L-E.
Okay. Questions for Lee?
Yeah, Lee, I know Payson's been looking for developments like this, where it has some higher end housing up on that part of town. It is in the interlocal agreement, and I want property owners to be able to basically, do what they want. But I would like to have the opportunity as a city, is trying to work with you so that we can have a nice subdivision. We don't have very many subdivisions in Payson. We have a real need for that, and especially some higher end. And work with you and see if there's a way that we could annex this quickly and also make it easy for you to develop it, and see if we could be as business friendly as possible. But that's what I would like to see, but not put it on a really short time frame so that you can move forward if you need to, because I think property owners ought to have most to say in their property. I'd really like to work with you, Lee, and see if we can make something work in Payson.
And I don't have a problem with that, but what are you going to do for culinary water? And how are you going to provide pressurized irrigation?
Well, with the culinary water, if I understand it, you can work with other cities to tie into some of their services too while we're developing those services. But that's what I understand it, so.
What about pressurized irrigation?
I don't have an answer for that right now.
It would just have to be a single source, just like Payson View Estates.
Everybody up above the canal is all on a single source.
So Payson,
The Elmer thing, you put the dry PI lines in.
they've taken that out.
Oh, have they? It's only made us put it in on the last subdivision.
Yeah. Ours was the last.
Yeah.
Hey, just because they seen you guys coming. Okay, any other questions?
I agree with Brian. We'd love to work with you. I don't know the answers for all of that. So here we go. So that's fine.
I don't know what all the answers are for that.
I just don't think it's going to be something that could be done in the next decade. I just don't know how Payson could do that.
I think if we looked at this, Lee, we'd be looking at figuring out how to get it done the next year for you. We'd have to do that. We'd have to figure out if it's not
Well, right.
possible, then we move
Why
on.
would you-
Yeah, I would say that too. Like, if we can't get it done in that time frame, then we shouldn't hijack your property. But I don't know. I'm assuming they looked at this before I got on board, and there's been discussions before. But
What's the probability of getting that annexed in Payson, just that part?
if there's no probability, I guess. Then
Just that area and then come back up in and tie back into the,
Yeah, we'd have to look and see how much property would be signatories. You have to have enough value of the property, and you have to have enough of the property owners. And so you have to look to make it contiguous to Payson, how many property owners would have to sign the petition.
What is the percentage? Isn't there a certain
I think
percentage?
51% of the owners, but then you have to have there's a third of the value of all the property.
So the parcels with the homes, you need their signatures for the value. Because you're on Greenbelt and so's all red, so your value is very, very small. So, I mean, even though between the two of you, you probably control the acreage, you don't control the value. It's the one
Well,
that has the homes
some
on
of
it.
the others are not on Greenbelt. They have homes that, Jeff, you're not on Greenbelt.
no, I'm not.
Mike Johnson, he's not on Greenbelt. Some of the owners are not on Greenbelt,
Right.
so their values would be higher.
Yeah,
those
so
are-
you've gotta have that balance between acreage and improvements to increase the value.
So how soon could we give Lee an answer on what he would have to have and,
Well,
you know?
I think part of it too is, you know, has he reached out to some of those owners to see who's willing to sign?
Yeah, but I think the greater question here is what you brought up about providing all the other things that come with it. You know, we can go ahead and annex it, but can we provide the services in a timely fashion? I mean, get this resolved so he can develop his property.
Well, and you're gonna have to talk to Elk Ridge regardless, whether it's for them to provide, the water, if it stays in Payson City and they provide the water, or if it's amending the annexation policy plan and that interlocal agreement. So it might be helpful to have a conversation with Elk Ridge to see, as a community, where they stand on the issue.
So do we do that on a staff level? I mean, I think part of what Brian's asking is, can we have the staff discussions between Elk Ridge and Payson to see if we can do that and make it advantageous to Mr. Haskell, or are we just wasting his time?
Is it possible to have a culinary system from Elk Ridge in Payson?
Yes.
So how do you do the billing and so forth? I mean,
They would bill you for the water.
it's just like your sewer system, it's in
Yeah,
Elk
they
Ridge, but
connect,
the
and
sewer
then they-
goes to Payson.
But in the case of water, it would just all go to Elk
And we
Ridge.
do have the new well up there, so eventually
Got the
that's
well.
what's supposed to cover the east side.
Well, yeah, but that well's like 2 miles away.
Right.
So that's why we'd be looking at.
That's
Elk
why you'd
Ridge.
look at Elk Ridge until then.
So how long would it take staff to have these conversations, or whoever needs to have these conversations? Like, can they be done in a month? Are we talking years? Like, I don't know.
We can meet with them. I think the bigger question is this council willing to amend that east side plan to say, we're gonna annex with less than 300 acres? Because that hasn't been the case in the past. This group has said, no, we're gonna
Right.
keep that. And if this council's not willing to do that, then we shouldn't be talking. Because that's gotta change, because there's not 300 acres that we can annex.
Well, I won't
Without
speak
doing
for,
that.
I won't speak for the rest of the council, but I'm interested in changing that.
Yeah.
That's why, frankly, that's why growth hasn't happened up there, because you can't get 300 acres without all red orchards. And if the council's not
And all
willing
that Orchards wants to stay farm, county, is that,
to, exactly.
that's the issue?
And it went through a lot of painstaking, I mean, we had a lot of meetings and stuff like that on everybody out there on the east side, so. Burtis, you wanna say something?
I wouldn't mind if you don't, just take a couple,
Two
you remind
minutes.
me in minute and 1/2,
All right.
once I hit there.
Minutes up already.
Okay, I'll tell you what, there's some things you'll find on, while you're serving on the council, that as you made your decisions and you raised your hand, as time passes, you kind of wonder, did I make the right decision? And this is kind of one of those, I think that wrong needs to be righted. I remember when Lee's son came in and asked about having this property developed, and we came back and said no. And that is a prime piece of property. Payson City has made a horrendous investment, not only into the golf course, but for the sewer system to go up there, to develop that property and properties around it. I think that we ought to utilize this property, bring it into the community, make it a vibrant area up there where people can go in and develop. You go across the street in Elk Ridge, I can see why he's here. People are developing in Elk Ridge and they're getting things done, and they're going about it quickly. You know what, this property needs to be developed. Now, there's some heartburn about Paul Red's Orchard. But they are protected by the Ag Protection Zone. So, people, they ought to know that they're gonna spray at night. They ought to know that if they had cows, that it's gonna smell. The Ag Protection Zone is set up for that purpose, so that the farmers are protected, to be able to do their agricultural. And a lot of people, if you go to other communities, they'd look at this and they'd say, this is open space. I definitely would like to have a a piece of property looking off in open space. In fact, I saw one development that they actually used fruit trees as part of their open space. And then the community went through and picked the fruit trees to help offset for landscaping. But anyway, I think that Allred's property is protected, and I think that, let's see, what else was it? I'd like to see some growth from Payson. I'd like to see the golf course have some revenue come back to Payson rather than increasing the value of the people in Elkridge. And that sewer line needs to benefit people from Payson and not people from Elkridge and from Woodland Hills. So that's my 2 bits worth. Thank you.
Okay,
I just want to comment with Allred's in the Orchard, that whether it's in Payson or Elk Ridge, it's gonna be the same subdivision next to Allred's, so.
all right, so direction,
We can gather what it would take to annex, what properties have to sign to meet the state code. But it really gonna come back, if it can happen, then we gotta decide. And if we decide that we're gonna move that 300-acre rule, then we probably need to sit down with Elk Ridge and work out some of the detail on water.
So what's the reason behind the 300-acre rule?
It's part of an agreement, it's not a rule in state law or anything, it's something that was agreed upon in one of our plans, not at the level
But
of,
what was the reasoning behind it?
The reasoning was so that there would not be any development south of the Salem Canal. That's why it was set up.
Until Allred's decided they didn't wanna
That's right.
farm.
There was a group of property owners, it wasn't just Allred's, but there was a group of property owners that wanted the 300.
That was my comment on the secret combinations.
There are still a group,
Let's
when,
break it.
when Lee's son came in to develop and annex some of the property closer down to Payson, not clear out this corner, there were a lot more than Allred that came out and said, we don't want to develop, we want to keep county, we want to keep it from growing. So that was the push, and when our city council adopted that east side plan, that 300-acre rule was left in there. There was discussion, pretty spirited discussion on whether that should be in there when that was adopted, but in the end, council agreed to leave it in there, and that's what's caused the lack of development in that area.
Linda, you got any comments?
She's probably asleep.
Is he gonna do the developing himself, or?
If I live long enough.
If it doesn't take a decade to get it through.
I know how old you are, Lee.
I know you do,
So,
but I'm still upright.
You are.
So what kind of information would you like us to get to you so you can make that?
I wanna know from engineering, can we service some of this stuff? I wanna know, we don't have money to lay the infrastructure out there, the pressurized irrigation, at what stage does this come
Well,
in?
that's why you just,
I wanna see development, but who's gonna pay for the service
The
then?
water's gonna be the tough one. Because I think we would do the pressurized just like the single source system, like Riley above the canal. It's just one system.
and then they don't
Is
get
that gonna
charged
be our
for.
long-term goal, Travis? Is that how we're gonna service that whole east side out there, is off the culinary water?
I have absolutely no idea, because we have never done any way to figure that out. I mean, without putting in probably some other well and a pond somewhere up on the hill, right now, there is no way to service that.
So
Because
you
even
requiring to put in
even
the
the
dry
lake that you're
lines?
going to build up there wouldn't be high enough, right?
So,
In this reservoir that you're gonna build up Payson
Right.
Canyon, that
It
still
would
would,
be, it would be high enough to service.
that would be high enough?
So do you do we require the same thing as Upgrades did? Do we have them put in the dry lines for the PI?
I don't know.
I wouldn't think we would, because on Riley we did have them put it in, because that was determined at the season source.
Well, and then another thing is if they do put the canal into a pipe, I mean, you're gonna get more because you're gonna create that pressure, a natural pressure.
Yeah, the CUP line could push it up more.
So I mean, there's different things that could get that water there, but that's way down the road.
A decade or at least.
Yeah, decade.
So can we enter an agreement with Elk Ridge where, I mean, they're using our sewer, can't we use their water? I mean, that's what you're gonna do anyway, like, can't we?
Just a trade,
I
yeah.
think
Why
we
can't we just trade instead of putting in all this
Make a
infrastructure?
decision tonight, but I'd like to have some more answers to some of the questions.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, what kind, do you want us to meet with Elk Ridge, do you want us to look at the annexation rules to see what kind of properties we need?
You guys are staff, you know what needs to happen, get some answers and tell us what you think.
Yeah, let's talk to Elk Ridge and see if we can, if there's a trade or something that we can work out there, and let's look at the annexation rules to know if it's even possible, if we can annex it. There's no point in having all these other conversations.
And what
That's
is
the
the,
first thing that needs to happen, right?
and then what's the, you know, policy on what do we gotta do to change the policy as far as to annex?
Instead of people's change their
Whatever.
minds up there with the values, it's a different story, but if the value wasn't there, there's no sense in going that route anyway.
I mean, if we can't do this within a year, we just as well tell him right now and tell us, and then we can just say,
Well, we don't know yet, but
What do y'all
I think
think?
we can have some answers with him.
but yeah, that's what we need to do.
A month.
I think it's critical we don't hold him
Is
hostage.
that too long? Like,
A year?
yeah,
No, I don't think that's too long.
okay.
Mike-
But we would-
Mike, Jeff, do you think that's too long?
I might be dead.
Lee,
Everybody's got this year.
He's the same age I am.
Lee, I would hope we'd have answers a lot faster than that. I don't wanna wait a year holding you up for a year. That just doesn't, that's not right for you.
12 years ago, though, the city council also met with us and said that they were going to develop that out in that area. 12 years ago. There's not been anything happen in that 12 years.
Well, we like infrastructure.
Well, and I realize that, and that's several $1 million worth of investment put into that, to service, what, maybe 100 homes out there? That's a lot of money.
Elk Ridge is making a killing.
Yeah, and I think the way we'd have to look at it is basically you'd have the same infrastructure cost as if you went to Elk Ridge because you'd put in your same infrastructure, then you just tie into Elk Ridge. So we'd have to make it that you couldn't.
If they would let you do that.
Right. But that's something we have to look at and try and make it work for you, and so Payson can have a nice subdivision, but it doesn't make any sense to put in a couple million extra dollars just to make it work in Payson, so we understand that.
I get it's kind of up to Elk Ridge if they're willing to.
Service water.
If they're not, then who pays for the water to get it there?
So I guess our biggest thing is we need to give you direction to go to Elk Ridge, see what we gotta do for water
We
to
can meet with them
to
in the
develop
next
all
couple
of
of weeks.
Well, not only water, he had other items that he listed. I think we need to have talks about all that stuff.
Yeah, take Lee's list, and then also we
Well, I
need to
think
see
we
if we
need to
can add.
prioritize which of them do we need, or what steps do we need to take to get to that?
Water's the big thing to me,
Yeah. I mean, and I can't imagine,
then the 300 acre thing is them two things right there.
well, we could stop their development and say, well, you don't give us any water, we don't give you any sewer.
There you go.
Let's see which one will back up first.
Yeah, I would be on the back end up. Keep the sewer running.
You better let Elk Ridge know.
I know about 6 months ago, I talked to Elk Ridge and asked them about providing water if we did a county subdivision. And at that time, they did say, yes, we would furnish water to that area.
So then that's pretty
But
much
I don't
it.
know if they have the same feeling toward Payson.
I would imagine they will.
Property values.
They ought to, we take their crap.
We will give staff direction then to
So
go
at this
ahead and
point,
start looking at
We need
it.
to work with the staff.
Yeah.
And I would give direction to do everything we can that's financially possible,
And as quickly as possible.
as quickly as possible.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you,
Okay,
Lee.
thanks. All right, next thing on the agenda would be work session on the city council and goals, and I would like to keep this no more than a quarter to, because we still have a closed session. So you've got 15, 20, 20 minutes.
I have a question, do we,
With a 5-minute break.
do we want to, because we don't get very much done in 20 minutes, do we want to schedule some time on a Saturday or something so we can really sit down?
Well, I think tonight, we just want to go basically over our main goals.
and-
Yeah, you asked each council member to come with their.
Yeah, I was wondering on each one having their top 3 things that they'd like to work on, so
Okay.
if, let's go to break, be back here at 25 after, and then we will spend 20 minutes on that.
No, I am. You better look at the page. I get it.